James Mackey has gone from a weird, anonymous screen name that seemingly refers to a website about Russian fighter planes to a prominent internet pro to, now, the owner of 2 prestigious poker bracelets, including one from the World Series of Poker and one from the PokerStars World Championship of Online Poker. With the World Series of Poker bracelet, which he won in a $5,000 no-limit hold'em event this year, he has accomplished what notable pros like Eric Lindgren and Phil Gordon could not. With the coveted W-Coupe bracelet, he has joined the likes of J.C. Tran as a PokerStars bracelet holder. This Pottsville, Arkansas native took a break from studying medicine at the University of Missouri to try his hand at playing poker professionally, and it looks like it paid off. We have Mackey on the phone right now to talk about his bracelets and what it took to win them. So how you doing, James?
I'm doing alright.
Great. Well, so congratulations on your new bracelet. Are you going to wear one on each arm now in the live events?
No, I actually don't wear them. I just keep them at home in like a cabinet.
Just in a cabinet, not in like a lockbox or anything like that?
No, nothing too special.
Who do you show them off to? Anyone, or you just keep them locked away?
Well, I mean, people that come over, some people ask me to see them, and so I just show them maybe like my friends and family.
Gotcha. Well, now when people comment that you look too young to be at the poker table, you can just flash them your bracelets to shut them up. That must be nice.
I'm sure I'll still get comments. I get comments at pretty much every table on that, about how young I look.
You and Chad Batista both, so...
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't reflect on how well you guys play poker. Well, this question may have an obvious answer, but which of the bracelets are you most proud of?
I'd say the World Series bracelet. It's much more prestigious, because I guess probably because the W-Coupe hasn't been around that long.
Right.
And it's just the higher buy-ins and the tougher field for the World Series.
Well, I mean, do you take into account at all the fact that you beat, I think it was almost 700 people for the World Series, but over 3,300 for the W-Coupe? Does that factor into it at all?
Yeah, the W-Coupe is tougher in that there's more people, but when I was playing at the field, the W-Coupe was actually a lot softer field. The players were a lot worse, but it's tougher in that there's way more people you got to go through. So, I mean, there's different factors for each of them.
Gotcha. Well, was there anything different about these two tournaments that made you more likely to win them? Like, were you more well-rested, more focused, luckier? What caused you to win?
I ran really, really good during the W-Coupe. I think I was probably luckier in the W-Coupe than I was in the World Series. But that makes sense considering I had to beat a field that was four and a half times as large, almost.
Okay.
I was pretty well rested for both of them. I don't think there's anything huge like that.
Okay. Well, what's the most important thing that you do to prepare for these poker tournaments?
I'd say just get a good night's rest and maybe get a good meal before you start. And mainly just be in a right mindset. You don't want to be like real angry. You don't want to get in a fight with somebody. And like be in an emotional mindset that's calm so that you're not able to easily go on tilt if you like take a bad beat early or something.
Okay. Well, is that something that you really, really notice? Like that's really pronounced? Like if you don't get even like the most perfect amount of sleep or you don't eat healthy or whatever before the tournament, do you really notice it in your game?
I used to notice it a lot more whenever I was first starting out. As I found more experience, I like just compensating when I haven't been able to get the very best conditions. It still certainly helps, but especially for new players who don't have as much experience, I think it's really important.
Okay. Well, you're obviously good at both live and online tournaments, as is evidenced by your live and online series bracelets. Is there any difference to you between playing live and online?
I don't actually think there's that big of a difference. I think it's just poker anywhere you play it or any way. Live obviously do a little bit more information with live tells, but people overrate just how important they are. So I think live and online, if you're good at one, you should be good at both.
Okay. Well, which is easier for you?
Which is easier for me?
Yeah.
I'd say probably live, but that's mainly because when I'm playing live, I'm only playing one table. So it's easy for me to be able to really focus and get the best reads possible. When I'm playing online, I may play 10 or 12 tables at a time. And then it's a lot tougher for me to get individual reads.
Well, if that's the case, then have you ever thought about lowering your volume online to improve your results, or is it not that big of a deal?
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm not going to do as well in any individual tourney because I'm playing more, but I make up for the fact that make up for that by playing more tournaments, so I make more money.
Okay. Well, now the W Coupe event was huge in terms of the size of its field. Like I said, it had 3,300 players. Do you have any advice for the early stages of that kind of tournament where you can put yourself in a position to do better later on in the later stages?
I'd say it depends a lot on just how good you are. If you're a skilled player and you're a lot better than the field, then you should try and play a lot of post flops, a lot of flops early on. When I'm in a big field like that, I try to see a lot of flops cheaply in position to play my opponents. If you're a newer player, I would try playing much tighter and only play flops in position.
Okay. So it really depends on how much confidence you have in your post-flop play and how easily you can get away from big hands?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, and how many days a week do you play poker, and how many tournaments a day?
I probably play 4 to 5 days a week online. And any day that I'm playing online, I probably play 20, 25 tournaments. So
what kind of buy-in cost would that be?
There's a large range. It'll be from anywhere from $50 to $1,000 on an average day.
Okay. Well, and what is the most invaluable lesson that you've learned in poker?
The most invaluable lesson I've learned probably is bankroll management, actually. It's just playing inside your limits and not risking too much of your bankroll at any one time. It's the number one thing that's kept me from going bust. Even if you're not that great, you can at least just play steadily and grind up your money instead of risking too much and going bust.
Well, and is this a lesson you learned from experience? Like, did you play outside of your limits at first, or?
Yeah. When I first started, I played much too high. Maybe I'd have like $1,000 and I'd buy into a $100 tournament.
Okay.
Something like that, where if I kept doing that for a long time, I'd eventually run bad and get unlucky and lose all my money. But I eventually learned after talking to a couple friends, they kind of showed me that, you need to set aside this much to play those tournaments and such.
Well, so let's take that example, actually. If I wanted to play a $100 buy-in tournament, how much would you suggest?
I'd say you'd want, at the minimum, $10,000. It'd be better if you had, like, $30,000.
Okay. What are the leaks in your game currently? Do you know of any?
Yeah. Occasionally I like to call too much. I try to make hero calls, trying to guess people are really bluffing when I shouldn't be. So I get a little curious sometimes, and I make bad calls.
That's actually exactly my leak right now too. I just make huge overcalls when I know I'm beaten, just because. And it's a weird leak to have, isn't it? I mean, like, making overcalls and losing all your money just because you think they're bluffing, it just seems like a weird leak to have, but...
Yeah, it's just human nature, it seems like. You try and talk yourself into, like, maybe they're bluffing, maybe they had a flush draw. Even though when 90% of the time they're not bluffing, it's just you sort of talk yourself into it.
Exactly. Well, what type of hand or situation usually gets you into the most trouble?
Like when I call like a suited connector or something, and then I hit, like, let's say I hit mid-pair and I'm out of position, it's very hard to play that because, you can't play it aggressively. Your hand isn't very strong, and you don't really give very much information because you're out of position. But your hand's strong enough that, you have a pair and they probably don't, that you still need to play it. So I guess, like, when I'm playing like a suited connector or something, and I hit a mid-pair.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to actually take a step back for a moment and go back to what I usually ask as my first question, which is, where did your screen name come from, MiG.com?
My screen name comes from, it's simple. It's MiG as in the Russian fighter jet, and then just MiG was taken, so I just added .com randomly.
Well, you also have a .net, a .org, and a .gov. Is .edu for the next site, or what?
Yeah, I guess the next poker site that comes up I need to make a name for. I might make it edu.
Well, and lastly, tell us something about yourself that most people would not know.
I guess most people wouldn't know. Before I dropped out of school to play poker, I was going to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something random that most people probably don't know.
And what kind of doctor were you going to be?
I think I was going to be a pediatrician.
Gotcha. So, I mean, do you just really like kids?
Yeah, I like kids, and I just I like the idea of being a doctor until I decided I like poker more.
Do you see yourself going back to that at all, or no?
I may go back to school and finish my degree. I don't think I'll go all the way back through school to go through med school.
Gotcha. Well, congrats again on your huge win, and thank you very much for doing this interview with us today, James.
No, thank you.
And thank you for watching The Online Zone on Card Player TV.